The room lit up near the door as my walkie-talkie crackled to life.
Dispatch, this is Ranger Barnes at Tower 6.
It was my voice.
Signing off for the weekend. See you on Monday.
This evening marks my first full week out at the Olympic National Park working as a ranger. I never thought I'd end up working somewhere like this, deep in the forest, far from civilization. But I quickly found it within myself that this is where I was meant to be. Out, in the wild, where I feel so comfortable just being alive, free from my usual day-to-day anxieties. Now I spend most of my time in my tower, Tower 6, nestled deep in the woods near a small yet wildlife-rich river, or surveying the surrounding areas. To finish off my lovely Friday, I opened up the windows to my tower and let the breeze flow through as I sat in my new favorite chair and listened to the forest sing. It was getting late. I knew it was time to make some food and wind down for the evening. I turned the stove on and set a pot of noodles to boil, finishing off what was left of my food I had brought for the week. I sat back down in my chair and peered out the window, watching the sun sink down into the horizon as the breeze brushed along the treetops and the birds returned to their nests for the night. I thought about how much I have come to appreciate this job over the past week, how I feel truly blessed to be able to do what I do. I've come to a new level of respect with our world. It's far more beautiful than our society makes it seem. An appreciative smile crept over my face as I switched on my radio and tuned it onto my favorite station, an older 24/7 rock and roll satellite channel. The track list consisted mostly of songs by Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, and other bands of that era. I sat there listening to the music and appreciating the view when I heard a strange noise. I turned my head to see that my pot of noodles had begun to boil over, and the hot water was hissing and steaming into the air as it hit the open flame of the stove. I quickly got up and turned down the heat of the burner, and the water slowly leveled off into the calm boil it first was. At this point, I realized the noodles were probably done, so I grabbed a fork and scooped out the noodles to test one, and sure enough, they were ready. I bent over to open the cupboard below me and reached for a large bowl when suddenly my radio began to warble, the station distorting as if there was something interfering with it. I was immediately struck by this and stopped what I was doing to focus on the strange interference. As I listened, the faint radio crackling grew louder, ever so slightly, until at one point I swore I could almost make out the undertone of something weirdly familiar yet uncanny. It sounded like a human voice, not just normal radio chatter. It was strained, and sounded almost as if whoever was there was sputtering frantically. But as fast as the noise materialized, it was gone, and the radio snapped back to the same AC/DC song that was playing before. I was incredibly taken aback and attempting to process what just happened, trying to rationalize it as I replayed the scene in my head. Before I had a chance to move, my walkie-talkie, which was placed on a table right next to the door, sounded off.
Tower 6, this is main station.
I moved toward the door and picked the radio up off the table.
Park Dispatch, this is Ranger Barnes at Tower 6. Go ahead.
There was a brief pause.
Evening, Ranger Barnes. Sorry to contact you this late. About 5 minutes ago, we received an odd transmission that appeared to originate from your tower. We weren't able to verify the signal.
The operator continued.
It didn't follow standard call protocol, and we weren't able to confirm a live source. We attempted to return contact and received no response. No additional transmissions followed. At this point, we're assuming it was just a trail cam malfunction broadcasting to the wrong frequency.
The radio hissed softly.
You're coming through clear now. Can you confirm everything is okay on your end? All good.
I said, trying my best to sound completely confident.
Have a good evening, Ranger Barnes.
The station's reasoning offered me an easy explanation to tonight's events and a much-needed sense of relief. I set down the radio, and the warm smell of cooked noodles filled my nostrils, reminding me of my dinner. I walked over to the kitchen area, popped 2 hot dogs onto a plate and into the microwave, pulled a jug of milk out of the fridge, poured some into the pot, and began to mix in the cheese powder with the noodles. I stirred them around until the cheese mix was evenly distributed. Then I emptied out the noodles into the bowl I grabbed earlier. I was so excited to finally chow down. The warm bowl sat in my hands, and, without warning, my mind snapped back to the radio and the interference. There could be a voice buried beneath the music and static. Thoughts began to race through my head as I bounced from one idea to another. What if it was the same transmission that came through the station? What if there really was something near my tower? Should I have told the operator what I heard? I did my best to suppress these thoughts when the microwave started beeping. My hot dogs were ready and, momentarily, my anxious trance was broken. My mind began to ease as a more dominant feeling swept through my mind. I was very hungry, and I was eager to ease my nerves with my favorite meal and my favorite movie. I popped open the microwave, took out the hot dogs, and placed the plate onto the counter. I reached down below me and pulled open a drawer to pull out a small bread knife. This was not a large or very sharp knife, but was well suited for any task I might have to prepare my food. Usually, that's only making a slit in the plastic film for the TV dinners that I would normally opt to eat. I cut up the hot dogs into small pieces and mixed them in with my mac and cheese, grabbed a fork from the drawer, and returned back to my chair. I grabbed my TV remote, which was stuck in between the cushion and the left side of the chair, and I turned on the TV and VCR to resume watching one of my favorite movies, Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. I settled into the chair and dug into my meal and became absorbed by the movie and the comfort I now felt. And before I knew it, I had finished the movie and my dinner long before that. As the credits began to roll, I got out of my chair, let out a large yawn, and returned my bowl next to the counter with the rest of my dinner dishes. That was when, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a faint, dark red pulsating glow creep upward to the top of a tree close to the tree line of the forest in front of my tower. I had managed to forget about everything I had gone through tonight, but at this moment, I remembered nothing but the radio, the weird interference, and the call from the station. I moved to the window which I had seen the light from, and sure enough, I wasn't just going crazy. There was a dim yet blanketing red glow coming from below the trees which I could not see, as, from the inside of my tower, I was not positioned to see directly below me. I did not know what to do. I thought to myself, should I investigate this? My mind immediately connected this to tonight's strange occurrences, and I became restless and concerned. First and foremost, this was my job. What if someone was hurt down there, signaling for my help? What if what I heard was a distress call? I knew there was only one way to find out for sure. I moved over to the door and flicked on the outside porch lights of the tower. I grasped the door handle and noticed it felt cold. I thought that maybe I was just scared and my mind was outlining things I might not usually take mind of. I sat there, with my hand around the door handle, silently reasoning with the night. It was not a cold night, but not a warm night either, and I realized I still had the windows of the tower opened. Yes, I was scared, but now I am scared and determined. I took a deep breath, opened the door, and swiftly stepped outside. I hurried to the railings of the tower and fought with the inner me that just wouldn't let me look down. I prepared myself for all possibilities. My eyes droned down the tree as the red light grew brighter and brighter until I reached the ground, and that's where I saw the light source. It was a flashlight left on the ground, but was glowing bright red, which was bouncing slowly, dim and back to bright again. I was again taken aback. Where could this have come from? I realized that the night was unusually quiet. Not the normal song of the forest with the bugs humming, branches rustling, and the wind blowing. There was nothing. I couldn't decide what I needed to do next. Do I go down and investigate the light? Should I call this in first? I knew I had to do something. I decided I need to call this in to the station and turned around to go back inside only to see that the door to my tower had closed. This has happened before when I leave the windows open. The wind is strong all the way up here. But I thought to myself, the night is still. There is no wind, at least not what I can hear. I turned the doorknob and was surprised by its stiffness. The door was locked. Did I accidentally do this? I was terrified, and now slightly annoyed. Anger began to stir inside of me as I failed to make sense of what was happening. Could someone be playing a trick on me? Was this all a put-on? A cruel way to haze me into truly being one of the crew? Ultimately, I was scared and confused, but forced myself to think. The windows were still open, and I could easily get inside. I moved toward the window I initially saw the light through, and promptly took stock of everything I could see. I was relieved to not see a masked killer standing in the kitchen area or sitting in my chair, and I instead saw everything left in the same spot it was. The remote on the chair, the milk on the counter, and the dishes still unfinished. Then it hit me. I hadn't washed any of the dishes, and they were all there. All of them, but one. I never put the knife away, and it was gone. My eyes jolted wide open, and a wave of terror washed over me. I panicked and turned around, only to notice the red light was gone. The forest was still. My heart thudded like thunder, and my frantic breath filled the atmosphere like the exhaust of a muscle car. The lights in my tower then instantly shut off. I stood there, as still as I could. It felt like an eternity while I waited for something, anything, to break the terrifying silence in any way at all. When I heard inside, through the open windows, my radio kicked back on. The same rock and roll station was playing, but this time there was not just interference, but an overlay. A terrible, agonizing, blood-curdling scream could be heard breaking through the music. I almost passed out. My heart was racing faster and faster every millisecond. I didn't know what to do. I was stuck in place on the top of this tower. That's when I noticed the red light had returned, this time seeping through the cracks of the wooden flooring beneath me. It grew closer. The light got brighter and brighter, and the blaring metal scream of the radio grew louder and louder until the light seemed to stop just below my feet, and the radio went silent. The room lit up near the door as my walkie-talkie crackled to life.
Dispatch, this is Ranger Barnes at Tower 6.
It was my voice.
Signing off for the weekend. See you on Monday.
Please, if you like this video at all, or you like the storytelling, or you like the gameplay, or you liked the sound effects or anything, you make sure you subscribe to this channel and you like this video. If you want to see more, then I will definitely make more. Make sure to leave a comment and show it to your friends so I can make more for everybody. And thank you and have a good night.